I'm Rusty Halvorson. We're in San Antonio at the Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA Trade Show, visiting with Eric Jennings of South Dakota and the South Dakota Cattlemen's Association, a producer near Spearfish, South Dakota. Eric, you just came out of the Region 7 meeting, and back home in the legislature for South Dakota, a very important bill was introduced just this week in regards to ag zoning laws. Can you give us an update about that, please?
Sure. Yes. Senate Bill 157 is going to deal with streamlining the conditional use permitting process in South Dakota. Every county has its own zoning requirements, or almost every county has zoning requirements. Some counties in South Dakota don't have any zoning regulations, but the ones that do, if you're going to put any kind of a conditional or a non-conforming use into the zone land, you need a conditional use permit. So right now, in order to go through the conditional use permitting process, there's a public hearing involved. And what has happened is that process has been hijacked by groups resistant to agriculture and other development. It's not just an agricultural bill. It affects any kind of, like wind energy, for example. And so that process has been hijacked a little bit. So what the new bill will do is streamline that process, that if you are applying for a non-conforming use and you meet all of the requirements in that zoning regulations for that county, that the zoning officer can just issue you a permit, and then you can hopefully just start on the building process. It does, however, allow for aggrieved persons to appeal that process or to that permit to where they can voice their concerns. So it's important that it's aggrieved persons, though, because in South Dakota codified law there isn't a definition of aggrieved persons. So that's essentially people that are going to suffer a consequence through that permitted action. And so they have a chance to appeal. It does put a timeline on it, though. So the appeal process has to go through. It's a 15 or 30-day window. And then the county commission would have to reach a solution on that.
Another topic that's been discussed, especially in the meeting we were talking off mic just a bit ago, prevent plant and the possibility of maybe more to come this year after a tough year in 2019. What are producers discussing?
Yeah, prevent plant became very important to us in South Dakota last year. The issue was, Rusty, that if you had prevent plant acres, you could go ahead and put in a forage crop, but you had to wait till November 1st to harvest that. And so in South Dakota, by November 1st comes along, there is not a lot of nutritional value left in that crop. And South Dakota Cattlemen became involved because it was a forage issue. Yes. That there was so many acres that couldn't be planted that we weren't going to have enough forage to feed the cattle. And so we had to get involved in it. Luckily, Congressman Johnson introduced some legislation to change the harvest date from November 1st to September 1st. USDA realized that they could just do that as a rule change. And so for 2019, that date did get moved up to September 1st. But that was just for 2019. Yep. 2020, it's still really wet in eastern South Dakota, so we might have the same issue. So we might have to be looking at getting that harvest date changed again.
Well, thank you for your time here in San Antonio, Eric. Enjoy your time at the convention. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
From San Antonio at the Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA Trade Show, I'm Rusty Halvorson for the American Ag Network.